Yes. So, hi everyone. This is Vishal from Cypher School. I hope you all are doing well. So, the agenda for today's session is to understand the data analytics or data science roadmap in 2026, right? So, to conduct this session, we have Abhijit sir with us, one of our mentor and SDE at Cypher School. So, hi sir, welcome to the session. So, could you please introduce yourself to the students?
Okay, hi everyone. Hi Vishal. So I'm Abhijit Kumar Jha and I'm a software engineer. I have about 3 years of work experience by now, and I've taught a bunch of students across different colleges in India. So, are you guys excited to get started here?
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much, sir, for the quick introduction. So now let's begin the session. That's all from my side. Over to you, sir.
Okay. So here's my slide shared, by the way. Yeah. Okay, everyone. So let's get started. Okay. Now, okay, data analyst and data scientist. So you might have heard this term a lot of times. Okay, and a lot of people don't understand the difference between them, what it takes to become an analyst, what future it has, right? What it takes to become a data scientist, and what future it has. Okay, so let's try to understand these terminologies because corporate terminologies are quite vague. Right? A lot of times, you enter as someone, you become someone else, right? So it's very vague, right? So let's try to understand what data analyst really mean. Okay, so try to imagine just maybe any number, right? Imagine any number, 7, 8, 10, right? Any number. Can you infer anything from it? Probably not, right? So let's say if I say 99, right? You can't really determine anything from it. Okay? The reason is there's no value in a single data point, right? But let's say if I give you a collection of data, what can you do with it? Maybe a lot, right? सबसे एक basic चीज है कि you can maybe find an average, right? If you have a lot of data, right, uh, and maybe it's categorized, you can relate two pieces of chunks of data together. For example, let's say 99 है, एक नंबर है 99, क्या चीज का नंबर है वो, right? Is it your blood sugar? Is it your marks? What it is, right? So the whole point of data careers is to understand information, is to understand data कि यार कोई data point है, right? So why is it there? Okay, why is it there? What does it actually mean? ठीक है, तो एक एनालिस्ट का काम बेसिकली क्या होता है? लेट्स ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट. सो जॉब ऑफ अ एनालिस्ट इज टू अंडरस्टैंड what the previous chunk of data means. ठीक है, जैसे कि एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं. Let's say you are in a college, right? And you have a lot of data of the past batches, past semesters, right? What all things you can infer from that batch, from that data, right? That's the job of a data analyst, right? That's the job of a data analyst, understanding what the data really means, right? Now, it's not that simple as I might sound. ठीक है, डेटा को पढ़ के बताना है कि भाई क्या लिखा हुआ है इसमें. No, it's not that simple. Most of the time, the data that comes to you is raw. It's unstructured. ठीक है, डेटा कहाँ पे है? It might be in, let's take an example of a college. Data might be in worksheets, right? Your exam sheets that your teacher corrected, right? Data might be anywhere, right? It might be in your, some data might be in your let's say platforms that you study at, right? Some data might be in Udemy, maybe some courses you took over there, right? So data is scattered, data is unstructured, right? So looking at that vast data, you can't really infer anything from it, right? So job of a data analyst is to take that structured, to take that unstructured data, first of all, collect it, make it structured, and then analyze that data, right? And present it to the stakeholders, right? Present it to the stakeholders, right? So job of analyst is, for example, in a company, right? Let's say कितना sales हुआ, कहाँ से कितना sales हुआ, right? All that information, collect that data, structure it, analyze it, clean it, and then show it to the decision makers, right? Show it to the decision makers. That's the job of a data analyst. Okay. Now, on the other hand, right, data scientist is actually a much different role than analyst. नाम सेम रखता हो. Job of analyst is to look at previous data and infer कि what is the meaning of that. बात समझ आया? Job of analyst is to look at previous data and then infer what is the meaning of that. And job of a data scientist is to predict, right? Is to predict what will happen in future using stats, basically statistics. Whatever you listen, right? Whatever you see everywhere, AI, machine learning, right? All those buzzwords that you see, large language models, essentially is statistics, right? Is probability, right? So job of a data scientist is to take that past data and infer, future from it, predict future from it. That's the job of a data scientist. Cool, right? Okay. So for example, right, let's move ahead and then we'll talk more. So as you can see, these are the key differences between an analyst and a data scientist. Okay. Now, थोड़ा सा और better समझते हैं इसको कि what is the meaning of analyst and data scientist. देखो यार, so and what is the future in these two? Generally क्या होता है, लोग समझते हैं कि data scientists are just above data analyst, which is true in a lot of sense. It's correct, right? And data scientist को crack करना भी ज़्यादा मुश्किल है analyst से, right? It's much harder to become a data analyst than a data scientist than a data analyst, okay, in most companies, right? So a lot of people are able to become data analysts, but data scientists अभी नहीं बन पाते हैं, right? So data analyst is actually a very good position जिससे तुम बहुत जगह पे transition कर सकते हो. It's not just data scientist, ठीक है? A lot of people can do this कि तुम data analyst से start करो, grow करते करते data scientist बन जाओ, ठीक है? But if you look at the skill sets that are required to become a data scientist, it's very high mathematical. It's very mathematical, essentially maths, right? And if you don't like maths, okay, data scientist as a career is going to be difficult. And I'll be very blunt, right? Math is in the core foundation of data science, right? Math is in the core foundation of data science. अगर नहीं आता है यार तो भले ही आप frameworks यूज कर लोगे, ठीक है? मेरे साथ हो चुका है, right? I have used frameworks, ठीक है? सब कुछ किए हैं, right? But जब आप किसी भी core foundation में जाओगे, right? You will have to use some form of maths, right? I was also struck with it, ठीक है? एक प्रॉब्लम है, सॉल्व करने ट्राई कर रहे हैं, घुमा फिरा के it boiled down to a concept in statistics, ठीक है? So data analyst से आप data scientist तो बन सकते हो, but if you learn ML algorithms, if you learn stats, right? But data analyst का एक और route भी आप ले सकते हो, right? Which is understanding the domain, ठीक है? Actually में देखा जाए तो this is actually valid for almost all career paths, right? If you are a software engineer, if you are in non-tech, if you are in any domain, data analyst, data scientist, machine learning engineer, if you understand the domain you are working in, domain से मेरा मतलब क्या है? For example, कोई बंदा Amazon में काम करता है, right? कोई, let's say someone is working in Goldman Sachs. So these two companies are of different domain: finance, logistics, ठीक है? Cypher schools, edtech, right? So these are different domains, right? If you have the domain knowledge along with the data scientist, you can slowly transition into hi Avnish, right? You can slowly transition into from this data analyst tech role to even managerial roles, okay? But it's going to obviously take time. Okay, now let's understand, so I hope it's clear, right? What is data analyst, right? What is the path you can take from data analyst? You can either go towards becoming a data scientist or go to non-technical roles like PM, right? Product managers, etc. Right? Now, if you look at the skills that are required for becoming a data analyst, right? It's quite straightforward. It's data, right? So the first thing that you need is actually Excel and SQL, right? Extremely important. SQL, extremely important. Data कहाँ पे? Where is most of your data? In SQL databases, ठीक है, वहां से fetch करना है, फिर analyze करना है, right? For that you need SQL, right? So understanding SQL is probably the most important skill you have as a data analyst, okay? Then Excel, okay? Now a lot of people, any SQL there, any SQL, ठीक है, it doesn't really matter, ठीक है, तुम MySQL पे ट्राई कर रहे हो, Postgres पे ट्राई कर रहे हो, anything, right? PSQL is essentially just slight different version of SQL, ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत अंतर आता है. If you know SQL in a company, let's say is using PSQL, it's going to be the same, almost same. थोड़ा बहुत syntax का different होगा, which you can easily catch up, ठीक है, उसमें कोई चिंता की बात नहीं है. Now Excel, डेटा विजुअलाइजेशन, दैट इज टैबल्यू, ठीक है, या फिर मैटप्लॉटलिब, दीज आर पैकेजेस जिससे तुम डेटा को शो कर सकते हो विजुअलाइज फॉर्म में, इन ग्राफ्स, इन चार्ट्स, राइट, सो दैट people who are taking the decisions based on their data can understand what that data really means. Python to implement some basic automation, basic analysis, right? And then business thinking. That's so as I talked about, with data analysis, you need some sort of domain knowledge, right? Eventually, जाते ही नहीं मिलेगा obviously, ठीक है, but eventually you need some sort of domain knowledge, ठीक है. जैसे कि मान लो तुम किसी प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनी में काम कर रहे हो, you will have to understand their product, their customer base, right? If you want to move, up the career ladder, right? Yeah, business thinking. Business thinking से मेरा मतलब ये है that for you to be successful in a data analyst career, you have to understand the domain you're working in, right? For example, if you work in a fintech company, you have to understand the business of finance, how it goes about, ठीक है, ताकि तुम सिर्फ डेटा एनालाइज ना कर पाओ, ताकि तुम सिर्फ प्रेजेंट ना करो, you can also take decisions in future, right? So to move across the ladder, abhi nahi, right? When you join as a junior, let's say data analyst, you will only be showing the data to the stakeholders, but someday you want to be those stakeholders, right? इसीलिए understanding the domain which you are working in and maybe capturing a niche, right, is very important when it comes to data analyst. जैसे कि एक हो गया डेटा एनालिस्ट, एक सिंपल डेटा एनालिस्ट है. एक कोई डेटा एनालिस्ट है जिसे थोड़ी बहुत बायोलॉजी की नॉलेज आ चुकी है, राइट, बायोटेक का नॉलेज आ चुका है, राइट, सो ही विल फ्लरिश इन दैट डोमेन. दिस वन डेटा एनालिस्ट जिसे थोड़ा सा फील्ड में काम करते करते फाइनेंस का नॉलेज आ चुका है, बिकॉज यू आर गोइंग टू वर्क इन सम कंपनीज जिसमें ये नहीं काम तो ही रहोगा, कुछ ना कुछ बिजनेस तो होगा उनका, right? So understanding their business, understanding their product is also important for data analyst, right? It's actually important for all the groups, right? All the groups, but for analyst positions it becomes mandatory, right? Now coming to data scientist. Now data scientist is definitely much different from data analyst, right? Honestly, you need everything which is mentioned here. First of all, SQL, Excel, visualization, basic Python, business thinking. You should know all of them, right? Now, you can maybe skip on a little bit of visualization, but every scientist knows, right? So you definitely need to know them, right? So एक data scientist बनने के लिए you will have to definitely study all the things that you need to do in data analyst. साथ में you will have to study for these things, machine learning, and most importantly statistics and probability, right? Everything जो भी तुम चीज देखते हो ना is a application of stats and probability, right? For example, ChatGPT use किया है, right? That works essentially on a mathematical concept called as Markov chain, ठीक है, Markov chain. Markov chain एक मैथ्स का कॉन्सेप्ट है which is used for identify dependent probabilities, ठीक है, अगर probability अपना याद हो, right? The probability is generally calculated based on independent events, है ना? Markov chain जो है is a method, right? It's a mathematical method. Yeah, sure. I will refer in the end. Okay. Markov chain is basically, a mathematical tool which helps you and get the probability of related events. ठीक है. और अगर तुम ध्यान से देखो, the process of generating text is essentially a probability, guessing game, right, of dependent events, right? For example, if you're talking about, say, food, right? So there's a high probability that maybe you'll talk about food later as well, right? So hope you got the idea. जैसे जैसे एक सेंटेंस है उसमें उसमें कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, राइट? उस बेसिस पे नेक्स्ट वर्ड डिसाइड होता है, राइट? So this again, the whole LLM models are based on statistics and probability, right? So you have to learn them extremely well, right? Machine learning, Python, SQL, and last में deep learning, right? Now machine learning and deep learning, again, बोलने बहुत आसान है कि हाँ machine learning पढ़ लो, deep learning पढ़ लो. Those are very vast topics, right? Not a joke. Those are definitely very vast topic. Machine learning, मैं अगर तुम्हें बताऊं simple words में, तो is basically a phenomena in which you try to fit a function in a data. ठीक है, बहुत सारे डेटा पॉइंट्स है, उसमें एक फंक्शन, मैथमेटिकल फंक्शन फिट करने का ट्राई करते हैं थ्रू डिफरेंट वेरियस मेथड्स लाइक रिग्रेशन, राइट, एंड ऑल. सो machine learning can happen with less data. थोड़ा सा डेटा में हम we try to use maths and try to create a function which can predict the next outputs. ठीक है, but deep learning is slightly different. In deep learning, the core concept is of neural networks. ठीक है, जो तुमको समझना पड़ेगा. And in neural networks, we don't really, give any sort of instruction. We just dump data, right? And we just say कि यार the predicted result is true or not. And on the basis of that, it keeps adjusting its weights, right? We'll have to, there are too many things to maybe cover in this video about deep learning, but that's the whole idea. Without giving a lot of features, a lot of information, right? Deep learning is able to get the future prediction, right, based on just enormous quantity of data and just processing it on its own, right? That's the power of deep learning, right? Okay, now I should also mention this, that आजकल इतना enough नहीं है, right? This is definitely the foundation that you need to do in data science, but to be very honest, you all know this, that if you want to be a data scientist, to a very good chunk and very good extent, you have to understand large language models as well in if you want to get a great job, right? So along with this, I'll add one more skill to the list, which is LLMs, understanding how LLMs work, right? Their attention mechanism, how to predict the next word, etc., and how they function in the end, right? And the topics are enormous when you go to LLMs, right? So as you can see, the topics are a lot, right? You might be thinking, "Yaar, itna kaise hoga?" Right? And I know it is quite difficult, right, to chunk everything at once, but that's the good part, right? Most of you guys are students, right? And you have to understand that even if you do it slow, right, over a period of time, you can learn them all, right? And most importantly, with a lot of good projects, you can experience them, right? And once you experience them, once you try them out, right, you will never forget. ठीक है, जब तक तुम पढ़ते रहोगे ना, right? If you like keep studying statistics, probability, machine learning, deep learning, you'll probably not understand enough. And even if you like cram everything inside, भूल जाओगे, right? You will quickly forget it, right? So I think the best pathway always in both analyst positions, scientist position, other IT related fields is building great projects, nothing else even comes close. ठीक है, now तुम बोलोगे यार सब कोई बोलता है ये चीज, right, that projects, you need to make good projects. कैसे बनाए, right? How can I make good projects? Now, so making good projects is the first thing you need to do is master the basics, right? Get the basics right. Okay, let's say you are doing an analyst. Let's say your first initially working on being an analyst. SQL, Excel, Python basics कर लिया, dashboard, and maybe you have learned Matplotlib, right, to plot and show the data. Once you have done the basics, right, you can directly like start searching what good projects you can build with analyst, right? One thing that comes into my mind is something called as A/B testing analysis. Okay, now it's up to you what project you want to build. It's just my recommendation, right? So A/B test hota kya hai? So for example, let's say there's a company who wants to launch a new feature, right? But before that na, they want to test it on a small group of people. तो दो फीचर निकालते हैं और लेट्स से 1000 लोग को एक फीचर दिखाएंगे, 1000 लोग को दूसरा फीचर दिखाएंगे, एंड देन दे कलेक्ट द डेटा, अ लॉट ऑफ डेटा, कि यार कितने लोगों ने कितने देर देखा, राइट? हाउ मेनी पीपल लेट्स से बॉट अ प्रोडक्ट फ्रॉम लेट्स से फीचर 1 or feature 2, right? So they collect a lot of data in both scenarios. That is A/B testing. ठीक है? Now it's a very good example of using data analysis. दो सिनेरियोज है जहां पर तुमने एक फीचर चेंज किया, दो सिनेरियोज है, and you got a lot of data, and now you have to compare them, right? You have to compare them, you have to do a data analysis, and understand maybe why, let's say, feature 1 maybe is better than feature 2, or feature 2 is better than feature 1, right? That is A/B testing analysis. It's a great project. Even if you are aiming, let's say, for a scientist, it's a great project to add in your resume, right? Then it's housing price prediction, recommendation systems. You can obviously focus on them later on, but you know and there are many more projects that you can cover. I would say the most important resource if you want to go into data is Kaggle.com, right? Kaggle.com. I personally have learned most of the things from Kaggle.com and its contest. One of the best resources out there, right? So Kaggle.com has some courses, uh, and honestly, don't rely solely on courses. You can maybe get better courses just purely on YouTube. But what Kaggle has is data sets that you can work with. जैसे मैंने कहा कि भाई A/B testing या house prediction या recommendation system, the biggest problem that you will have is, okay, I need to do analysis, I need to do maybe predictions. How will I get data? That you can get from Kaggle, right? A lot of data. You get free GPU, right? For LLMs, for machine learning, you get free GPU, right? Then along with this, amazing contests, right? A lot of contests keep happening on Kaggle.com. So go check it out. Okay? Definitely check it out. You'll get a lot of projects, and you will learn a lot. Okay, so what is my approach for learning data science, data machine learning? Master the basics, jump into Kaggle contest directly. First, jump into free ones. Okay, there are many contests that keep on happening, and a lot of them are very difficult. अगर initially जाओगे तुमको कुछ समझ ही नहीं आएगा what to do, how to approach. So there are two types of Kaggle contest. Okay, so let me just in fact show you what Kaggle looks like if you have not explored it before. Okay. Okay, now this is called as a data. This is Kaggle's screen. Okay, now look over here. If you look over here and click on maybe competitions, right? There are many things. Okay, you can go and learn these things. Now you can go on competitions. Now over here you can also find a lot of things like documentation, data sets, a lot of them. Now if you go on competitions, as you can see over here, there are many competitions that are going on, right? First target these kinds of competition called as knowledge. Okay, now these knowledge competitions, as you can see over here, they don't have any prizes or everything, but they are easier to understand. Okay, so if you click on any of them, you will get a lot of reference code, a lot of discussions, right? Learn from these. I feel personally this is the best resource that you can have for data analyst and data scientist positions, right? Learn the basics as we have seen in the slide, right? And directly go into contest with Kaggle. Yeah, I think the video will be available, right? Uh, okay, so let's continue. Okay. Yeah, I know. Let me just check it. Okay, I'll just share it this way. Okay, is it visible, guys? Yeah, let's go forward. Okay, now. Okay, now let's talk about. So, is it visible, guys? Everybody, is my screen visible? My slides? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So we have seen here, सीखते कैसे हैं? So first of all, master the skills, the core skills, and master से मैं मतलब ये नहीं कि spend a lot of time in that. Okay, just learn the basics, and then move to Kaggle.com and similar websites where you can go ahead and start participating in free contest from which you can learn way more than you can learn from anywhere else. Because in those contests, all you will do is just build projects, talk to people. I'm not audible anymore. Hello, hello, hello. I think it's audible, guys. Screen not visible. No. Okay, let me give it a try. Uh, is it visible now? I shared it. I'm not sure why. Um, yeah, I know, I know. Let me just check. Okay. Um, yeah, I think it's visible now. Is it visible? Everybody? Yeah, I think it is. Okay. Okay. So yeah, where were we? Okay, so the path to become very good at data analyst and scientist is basically, first of all, go ahead and master or basically learn the basic skills. I'm not saying I should not master, but learn the basic skills like Python, SQL, right? And if you're aiming for, let's say, a scientist position, you will have to learn basic machine learning at least, okay, and statistics. Now, all the rest of the things like LLMs, deep learning, go and learn them while building projects slowly. Okay, you can't expect to learn everything at once. Okay, but eventually with time you can learn all of them, right? And you can master them with projects. Okay, so my strategy is simple: learn the basics, jump into Kaggle, do first of all the basic projects, the basic competitions, which has no reward. Then you can switch to tougher competitions, and most of the competitions on Kaggle are very tough. They are on very new and niche techniques. Okay, very new and niche techniques. Okay, so let's say there's something that's going to happen in the AI world, in machine learning, deep learning world. It actually first comes to Kaggle right? The contest first comes to Kaggle, and then it eventually gets normalized in society. Normal people get to use it. So become a Kaggler. It will really help you. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, it's a simple pathway over here in which you can go ahead and learn, first of all, the basic skills like SQL and Python, representation using Matplotlib or Power BI. Then in phase 3 and phase 4, you're learning data science. So if you want to be an analyst till phase 2, then phase 3, phase 4 for becoming a data scientist. Phase 3, you have to give a good amount of time, I would say a good chunk of time on understanding probability and statistics for this, right? And then most of the time in learning machine learning models, right? Okay. Now, as I told, the best way is projects. Now let's come to job opportunities, right? Now, as I've told you, the analyst position is the easiest to crack compared to data scientists, machine learning engineers, and more so on and so forth, right? The field just goes on. So, obviously, if it's easier to crack, the salaries compared to maybe a data scientist is relatively lower, on the lower end, right? Now, if you want to be, but as I told you, it's possible, right, to get into a data analyst position in a very big company, right? And maybe it's very difficult for you to crack a data scientist position in maybe a smaller company also, right? So becoming a data analyst can be a good pathway in entering into good corporate giants, good companies, right, across the world. In fact, not just in India, across the world. Okay, data scientist, if you are able to become amazing field, right, you get good pay. And I would say the best part about data analyst is, especially because you are in India, you can get good remote jobs after a decent experience. For example, 2 to 3 years of experience, you can start even building or searching for remote jobs. Now, the analyst position is such in which the most that matters is actually your portfolio, right? What you did. Right? I give an example of one project, right, which is just A/B testing analysis. Pick a niche, pick a domain. Let's say you got into a company which is finance oriented. Learn a little bit about finance. Look at projects which can be done in data analysis in finance, and then do them 2, 3, 4, 5. And as your portfolio grows, your ability, your GitHub obviously will become strong, right? Your ability to crack good remote jobs, right, in data analyst field becomes amazing, right? Obviously, it's not that high paying because the whole point of remote jobs for foreign companies is to hire maybe hire affordable labor in the end, right? But you can obviously get much higher pay than Indian companies, right? There's also a possibility that you can go abroad, right, with data analyst and data scientist positions. A lot of companies hire from India directly for these positions, right? And all you have to do, it's obviously saying it is easy. Consistently doing is hard. I know that. अच्छा ठीक है यार. What do you want to know in Hindi? ठीक है. तो जैसे हम बोल रहे थे, right? First of all, how to become a data analyst, data scientist. I hope it's clear, right? You have to first of all master the basic skills, as we mentioned, Python, SQL, right? And data representation for analyst position. और जब data scientist पे जाते हैं तो क्या करना पड़ेगा? Machine learning algorithms, right? Plus deep learning, and you can just keep going, and obviously statistics and probability, right? Now, once these basics are done, तुम जाओ कैगल पे, वहां पे कॉन्टेस्ट में पार्टिसिपेट करो. पहले इजी कॉन्टेस्ट जहाँ पे कोई देयर इज नो रिवॉर्ड एंड ऑल, बट दैट्स फॉर लर्निंग पर्पस. इन दोस कॉन्टेस्ट यू कैन बिल्ड इजियर प्रोजेक्ट्स. ठीक है, एक बार वो प्रोजेक्ट्स हो जाएं, तुमको खुद बहुत अच्छे से समझ आने लगेगा कि हाउ एवरीथिंग एक्चुअली कम्स टुगेदर इन डेटा एनालिसिस एंड इन मशीन लर्निंग, डेटा साइंस, राइट? नाउ एक बार वो हो गया, then go for job, then you can definitely go for jobs and internships, right? Internships and jobs. Now अभी हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं कि जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटी कैसा है डेटा एनालिस्ट, डेटा साइंटिस्ट के लिए, राइट? तो जैसे हम बताएं भाई कि यार डेटा एनालिस्ट का जो पोजीशन है वो क्रैक करना रिलेटिवली आसान होता है, बिकॉज एज यू कैन सी द रिक्वायरमेंट इज लेस. द रिक्वायरमेंट इज मोस्टली एसक्यूएल, most companies will judge you on the basis of your skills on SQL and maybe a bit of Python, right? ज्यादातर का इंटरव्यू भी इसके अराउंड ही होगा, right? But a data scientist interview would be much difficult, right? Approximately 2x difficult. Reason being, machine learning आना चाहिए तुमको उसमें अच्छे से, right? You should know core algorithms of machine learning, and because of the new D&H, you definitely need to understand about LLMs, attention mechanism, so on and so forth. ठीक है, तो एक एनालिस्ट पोजीशन क्रैक करना रिलेटिवली आसान है कंपेयर टू साइंटिस्ट, ये बहुत ही क्लियर बात है, राइट? नाउ so definitely the salaries in data analyst positions are slightly lower compared to data scientist, ठीक है, they are definitely lower, but as I told you, with data analyst positions as well, you can slowly migrate to a data scientist position, or you can go into product roles, right? Into product roles by understanding the domain of the company in which you work in, right? Second of all, ये एक ऐसा करियर है जहां से इंडिया से बहुत ज्यादा रिमोट जॉब्स लगने के चांसेस हैं, राइट? एंड रिमोट जॉब्स आर अमेजिंग, टू बी वेरी फ्रैंक, ठीक है? नाउ रिमोट जॉब्स अभी तुमको उस पर ध्यान देना चाहिए बिकॉज यू वोंट बी एबल टू गेट देम ऑनेस्टली. मोस्ट कंपनीज दैट हायर रिमोट, दे डिजायर एक्सपीरियंस लेवल ऑफ 2 to 3 years minimum, and the best chance is closer to about 5 years, ठीक है? But once you get them, the life really changes, right? Also, एक और possibility है to directly go abroad with jobs to different countries, right? Which hire directly from India, right? A lot of countries from Europe, right? For example, the one that comes into my mind is Germany and Netherlands, ठीक है? वो directly hire करती हैं इंडिया से डेटा एनालिस्ट, डेटा साइंटिस्ट, सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग, मशीन लर्निंग इंजीनियरिंग, इन सभी फील्ड्स के लिए, ठीक है? तो तुम वहां भी जा सकते हो, बट आफ्टर अ डिसेंट चंक ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस, but you need to gain a certain chunk of experience before you can approach those, ठीक है? तो अभी तुम्हारे लिए क्या होगा? Most of you guys maybe are in second year, third year. Focus on learning basic skills. Focus on making a Kaggle profile amazing, right? And then try to crack these jobs. Okay, first try to crack internships, good companies in India, and then later on you can advance in your careers as you prefer. Okay. So that's all for today, from my side. And if you have any questions, you can definitely ask me in the comment section. Anyone? Any doubts? Any questions? DSA. Acha. Okay. Nice question. I think it's in mind of a lot of people. इसके लिए DSA करना पड़ेगा कि नहीं? To be very frank, for analyst positions, maybe not. Right? Most analyst positions do not require a lot of DSA. जो Python उसमें पूछते भी हैं, it's simpler. Right? It's generally string manipulation का question आ जाएगा maybe. ठीक है? तो DSA थोड़ा बहुत तो रहेगा ही कहीं ना कहीं. It's essentially logic implementation, right? ठीक है, लॉजिक इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ही है वो, तो थोड़ा बहुत DSA रहेगा, बट नॉट extreme DSA like trees and all. नहीं, analyst position generally strings, right? Or manipulation is generally asked, and a lot of times जो तुम डेटा स्ट्रक्चर यूज करते हो एनालिस्ट में, दैट इज डिक्शनरीज, मैप, ये सब चीज यूज करते हो, ठीक है? एनालिसिस में यूज करना पड़ता है सब चीज, तो थोड़ा बहुत DSA वहां आ सकता है, सिंपलर, जहां पे हम बोलेंगे एरेज, हैश मैप्स, स्ट्रिंग्स, very important topic. Machine learning engineering, right? Machine learning, data science, you have to cover DSA for jobs, definitely. तुम देखोगे बहुत सारे मशीन लर्निंग एल्गोरिथम्स जब पढ़ोगे ना तुम, दैट ट्रीज, रैंडम फॉरेस्ट क्या है वो? एसेंशियली कलेक्शन ऑफ ट्रीज है, राइट? डिसीजन ट्री एल्गोरिथम, ये सभी चीज डेटा स्ट्रक्चर पे ही बिल्ड है भाई. तुम उसके बिना नहीं क्रैक कर, उसके बिना एक्चुअली में डेप्थ नहीं समझ पाओगे इन एल्गोरिथम्स का, राइट? सो DSA मैं कहूंगा कि जो सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स बन रहे हैं, राइट, जो उनसे कम आता है, राइट, डेफिनेटली, बट यू हैव टू डू एनालिस्ट के लिए स्ट्रिंग्स, एरे, हैश मैप्स, डन. फॉर मशीन, फॉर लेट्स से someone like who is trying to crack data science, you have to cover almost all data structures, definitely, but उसका level थोड़ा कम होगा. I would say medium lead code, not hard, it would be enough. Okay. अच्छा रिसोर्स बता दीजिए यार, बताया तो. The best resource out there for data science, for analyst is Kaggle. Kaggle से ऊपर कुछ है ही नहीं, ठीक है. Learn for campus placements. For analyst positions, I would say no, right? Analyst position के लिए उतना जरूर नहीं है तुम्हारा कोर सब्जेक्ट्स का. कोर सब्जेक्ट्स जैसे कि ओएस हो गया, और तुम्हारा फिर नेटवर्किंग, और and yes, one core subject that you need to study is definitely DBMS. As I mentioned, SQL is a important cornerstone for all these things. So DBMS पढ़ लेना, rest is your choice. उतना जरूरी नहीं है. For someone who is going into software engineering, right, for them core subjects matters a lot. Networking हो गया, सब चीज बहुत ज्यादा मैटर करता है. But for these, you can we should mostly focus on DBMS. Okay. So I think that's it. We can wrap it up. Up to you, Vishal.
Yeah. So thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. I hope like everyone have gained something new, valuable insights from the today's session. Yeah. So that's all for today. Like we'll meet soon again in the upcoming sessions. That's all. Yeah. Good night. Have a good night. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Viraj. Abhijit, sorry.